Tai wiped the sweat from his forehead as he checked the fuel levels on his ship, the asterisk Star Runner asterisk. The numbers on the screen made him frown. Not enough credits to fill the tanks completely. Again. 2 more jobs, he muttered to himself. 2 more jobs and I can pay off the engine repairs. His small cargo ship wasn't much to look at. The paint was peeling off in places, and some of the interior lights flickered. But it was his home and his livelihood. Ta had been hauling cargo across the outer rim of the Galactic Federation for 5 years now. It wasn't glamorous work, but it paid the bills. Usually. The docking bay around him bustled with activity. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved cargo, repaired ships, and talked business. Ta's ship was docked at Outpost 7, one of the busier trading hubs in this sector. He needed a job, and fast. His communication device beeped. An unknown caller. Ta hesitated before answering. Captain Ta of the asterisk Star Runner asterisk, he said. I hear you're looking for work. The voice was low and smooth. Meet me at the Lucky Star Bar in 1 hour. I have a job that pays well. Very well. Before Tai could ask any questions, the caller hung up. The Lucky Star Bar was in the shadier part of the outpost. Ta knew he should be careful, but the promise of good money was too tempting to ignore. His ship needed repairs, and his credit account was nearly empty. The bar was dimly lit and smelled of cheap alcohol and various alien foods. Ta scanned the room, unsure who he was supposed to meet. A human man in the corner booth raised a hand, beckoning him over. Captain Tay, the man said with a slight smile. I'm Kang. Please, sit. Kang looked wealthy. His clothes were clean and expensive-looking, and he wore a small device on his wrist that Tay recognized as a high-end personal shield generator, not the kind of thing most people could afford. What's this job you mentioned? Tai asked, sitting down across from Kang. Kang slid a small data chip across the table. Simple transport job. Take this container from here to these coordinates. He pointed to the chip. The payment is 50,000 credits. Half now, half on delivery. Tai nearly choked. That was 5 times his usual rate for a similar distance. What's in the container? That's not your concern, Kang said smoothly. The container is sealed and will remain that way. No scans, no questions, just delivery. Warning bells rang in Ta's mind. This was clearly not legal cargo. Weapons, drugs, but 50,000 credits would not only pay for his repairs, but would keep him flying for months. I don't transport anything that could hurt people, Ta said firmly. Kang smiled. I assure you, nothing in that container will harm anyone. Do we have a deal? Against his better judgment, Ta nodded. We have a deal. The container was loaded onto his ship 2 hours later. It was larger than Ta had expected, taking up a good portion of his cargo hold. Black, unmarked, with a sophisticated locking mechanism. Ta tried not to think about what might be inside. With the first half of his payment already transferred to his account, Ta plotted a course to the coordinates Kang had provided. It would take 4 days at standard speed. 4 days of trying not to wonder what he was really transporting. The first 2 days passed without incident. Ta kept himself busy with minor repairs and watched old Earth movies to pass the time. On the 3rd day, everything went wrong. The ship's alarm blared, jolting Ta awake from a nap in the pilot's chair. The radar showed 3 small ships approaching fast. Pirates. Not now, Ta groaned, powering up the engines and shields. The asterisk Star Runner asterisk wasn't built for combat, but it could outrun most pirate vessels if given enough of a head start. But these pirates were prepared. A well-aimed shot hit his engine housing before he could fully power up. The ship shuddered violently. Warning: engine damage detected. Speed reduced to 60%. The ship's computer announced calmly. Ta couldn't outrun them now. He had to think fast. The nearby asteroid field might provide cover, but navigating it at speed would be extremely dangerous. He steered toward the asteroids, weaving between the massive rocks as the pirate ships followed. Another hit rocked the ship, this time striking near the cargo hold. A new alarm sounded. Warning: breach in cargo area. Atmosphere venting. Ta set the ship on autopilot and ran to the cargo section, grabbing an emergency patch kit on the way. When he reached the cargo hold, he found chaos. The hull breach was small but had caused enough damage to crack open the mysterious container. And what spilled out made Ta freeze in shock. Huddled together, shaking with fear, were 7 small alien beings. Their skin glowed faintly with a blue-green light, and their large eyes blinked up at him in terror. They were thin, with marks on their wrists and necks that looked like restraints had been removed recently. What the... Ta couldn't believe what he was seeing. Not weapons, not drugs. People, living beings. Kang was transporting slaves. Another hit from the pirates jolted him back to reality. Ta quickly patched the hull breach, then turned to the aliens. "Stay here," he said, knowing they probably couldn't understand him. "I'll be back." He rushed back to the cockpit and took manual control again. With renewed determination, he navigated deeper into the asteroid field. The pirates were still in pursuit, but having difficulty following his erratic course. Ta spotted a massive asteroid ahead with a deep crevice running through it. It was barely wider than his ship, but if he could get through it and the pirates couldn't follow. "Hold on," he muttered, though no one could hear him. He aimed for the crevice and reduced speed just enough to maintain control. The ship scraped against the rocky walls, metal screeching, but kept moving forward. Behind him, one of the pirate ships attempted to follow and miscalculated. It slammed into the asteroid wall, exploding in a brief flash of light. The other 2 ships pulled back, unwilling to risk the same fate. Ta emerged on the other side of the asteroid and pushed his damaged engines to their limit. Within an hour, he had lost the remaining pirates and could finally deal with his unexpected passengers. The aliens were still huddled together when Ta returned to the cargo hold. He approached slowly, hands raised to show he meant no harm. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said gently. One of the aliens, slightly larger than the others, stepped forward cautiously. It wore a small device around its neck that blinked with a yellow light. Ta recognized it as a basic universal translator, though an outdated model. He pointed to himself. "Ta. My name is Ta." The alien touched the device at its neck. After a moment of static, a soft voice emerged. "I am Sun. These are my people, the Lumini." "You speak Federation standard?" Ta asked, surprised. "The men who took us," Sun explained. "They made us learn to understand orders." Ta felt sick. "Where are you from? Where were they taking you?" "Our home is far. Very far." Sun's large eyes looked sad. "They were taking us to a mining world. Our people can heal damaged land, make dead soil live again. Very valuable to them." Another of the aliens, smaller than the rest, moved forward and said something to Sun in their language. Sun nodded. "June asks if you will return us to the bad men." Ta looked at their frightened faces, at the marks of captivity on their bodies, and felt anger rising within him. He had unknowingly become part of something terrible, but now he had a chance to make it right. "No," he said firmly. "I won't take you to them. But I don't know what to do with you either." His ship's computer interrupted with an alert. "Incoming transmission from Federation patrol vessel." Ta's heart sank. Federation patrol ships routinely checked cargo manifests and identification. If they found the Lumini aboard, without proper documentation, both Ta and the aliens would be in serious trouble. "Hide," he told Sun urgently. "All of you, back in the container, just until they're gone." As the Lumini scrambled back into the damaged container, Ta realized his simple cargo job had just become the most complicated situation of his life. He had to decide, follow Federation law and potentially condemn these beings to slavery, or risk everything to help them. The choice, when he thought about it, wasn't really a choice at all. Ta's heart pounded as he answered the Federation patrol's call. He forced a calm smile as the officer's face appeared on the screen. "Captain Lee of the Federation Patrol, state your name and business in this sector," the stern-faced woman said. "Captain Ta of the cargo ship Star Runner " Tai replied, trying to sound casual. "Just passing through, making a delivery to Station 9. Officer Lee looked down at something off-screen. "Your ship is showing signs of damage. Do you require assistance?" "Had a run-in with some pirates," Tai explained. "Nothing serious. My ship can make it to the nearest repair station. We'll need to scan your cargo. Standard procedure." Tai's mouth went dry. "Of course," he said, his mind racing. The standard scanners would easily detect the Lumini. He quickly pressed a button on his console, sending a small pulse through his ship's systems. The lights flickered and several alarms began to sound. "What was that?" Officer Lee asked, frowning. Ta hit a few more buttons dramatically. "Power surge. The pirate attack must have damaged my systems worse than I thought." He made a show of trying to silence the alarms. "My scanner deflectors are activating randomly. If you scan now, the feedback might damage your systems." Officer Lee looked skeptical. "Power down and prepare to be boarded for inspection." "I can't power down," Ta said, genuine panic entering his voice. "The life support systems are linked to the main power grid. If I shut down, I lose air." He hit another button, causing more alarms to sound. "I need to get to a repair station immediately. Please, I don't want to die out here." The officer stared at him for a long moment. Then she sighed. "Very well, Captain. Proceed to repair Station 41. It's the closest to your position. We'll escort you there." Ta nodded, trying not to show his relief. "Thank you, officer. I appreciate the escort." The patrol ship stayed with him for 6 hours before being called away to another emergency. As soon as they were gone, Ta changed course. He couldn't go to repair Station 41 now. They would be expecting him. Tai returned to the cargo hold where the Lumini waited anxiously. "They're gone," he told Sun. "But we can't go to any Federation station. They'll be looking for us." Sun nodded. "The small one, Jun, is not well," she said, pointing to the smallest Lumini who lay curled up in a corner, shivering. Tai approached and knelt beside Jun. The small alien's skin had lost much of its glow, and dark patches had appeared around its neck and wrists where the restraints had been. "What's wrong with him?" Tai asked. "Our bodies need sunlight and clean air," Sun explained. "The men who took us kept us in dark boxes. Jun is youngest. He suffers most." Tai thought quickly. His ship had basic medical supplies, but nothing for an alien species he knew nothing about. He needed help, and there was only one person he could think of who might offer it without turning them in. "I have a friend," he told Sun. "A doctor. She might be able to help Jun." Sun's large eyes studied him. "Can you trust this person?" "I hope so," Ta said honestly. The research station floated in orbit around a small moon, far from the main Federation trade routes. It was privately funded, which meant fewer questions and less Federation oversight. Tai sent a private message to his old friend Hana. They had grown up together on Earth before their paths separated. He to cargo hauling, she to medical research. Ta. Hana's surprised face appeared on his screen. "It's been ages. What brings you to my little corner of space?" "I need help, Hana," Ta said seriously. "Medical help. And it has to be secret." Hana's smile faded. "Are you hurt?" "Not me. I have passengers. One of them is sick. I can't take them to a Federation facility." Understanding dawned in Hana's eyes. "Smuggling again, Ta?" "Not exactly. It's complicated. Can I dock at your station? I'll explain everything." Hana hesitated, then nodded. "Bay 3 is empty. I'll make sure no one's around when you arrive." Hana's eyes widened when she saw the Lumini. She had been prepared for something illegal, contraband, maybe even fugitives. But not this. They're beautiful, she whispered, staring at the softly glowing aliens. Tai quickly explained the situation while Hannah examined June. The small alien trembled at her touch but allowed the examination. I've never seen anything like them, Hannah said, scanning June with a medical device. Their biology is fascinating. It appears they photosynthesize, similar to plants, but they also have complex internal organs like animals. Can you help June? Tai asked. Hannah bit her lip. I think so. He seems to be suffering from malnutrition and oxygen deprivation. And these marks. She gently touched the dark patches on June's skin. Some kind of chemical burn, maybe from the restraints. She stood up. I have a biodome in the research wing. It's filled with plants and has specialized lighting to simulate sunlight. That might help. The biodome was warm and humid, filled with plants from dozens of worlds. Large lights in the ceiling mimicked natural sunlight. As soon as the Lumini entered, their skin began to glow more brightly. June especially seemed to perk up, his small body stretching toward the light. The other Lumini spread out among the plants, touching them gently with their long fingers. They're healing, Sun told Tai, her voice filled with wonder. Your friend has given us a great gift. Hannah watched in amazement as the plants nearest to the Lumini began to grow visibly, becoming greener and stronger. Incredible, she murmured. They're accelerating plant growth. While the Lumini rested in the biodome, Tai told Hannah everything. About Kang, the job, and the pirates. You've gotten yourself into serious trouble, Hannah said when he finished. Interfering with slave transport is bad enough in the Federation's eyes. But these beings, if they can do what you say, make dead soil live again, they're incredibly valuable. The corporations that run the mining operations would pay fortunes for them. I can't turn them in, Ta said firmly. You've seen how they were treated. Hannah nodded. I agree. But what's your plan? You can't keep them on your ship forever. And you can't take them home. You don't even know where their world is. Before Tai could answer, his communication device beeped. The message made his blood run cold. What is it? Hannah asked, seeing his expression. It's from Kang, Ta said quietly. He knows I haven't delivered the cargo. He's offering me double the payment to complete the job. And if I don't? He looked up at Hannah. He says he'll report my ship as stolen. Every Federation patrol will be looking for me. Hannah's face paled. Can he do that? He has connections, Ta said grimly. I've heard rumors about him. He works for some of the biggest mining corporations. They have people in the Federation government. They both turned to look at the Lumini, who were now moving among the plants, their gentle touch bringing new life to even the weakest specimens. We need to find somewhere safe for them, Ta said. Somewhere the corporations can't reach. I might know someone who can help, Hannah said slowly. A former colleague. She left official research to work in the border regions. She has alternative views about Federation policies. Can we trust her? Hannah nodded. Min is one of the good ones. If anyone knows where to take your new friends, it's her. Just then, Sun approached them. The little one is better, she said, pointing to June, who was now moving among the plants with the others, his skin glowing almost as brightly as theirs. Sun, Ta said, can you tell me more about your home? How did the bad men find you? Sun's large eyes grew sad. Our world is far, many stars away. The bad men came in big ships, said they wanted to trade. But then they took some of us, said we would help make other worlds green. She touched a wilting plant, which straightened and bloomed under her fingers. This is our purpose, to heal. But they made it wrong. How many of your people did they take? Hannah asked gently. Many groups, like us, sent to different places. Sun looked up at Ta. You are not like the bad men. You help us. Ta felt a weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. It wasn't just these 7 Lumini who needed help. There were others, possibly dozens or hundreds, being forced to work in terrible conditions. We'll find a way to help all of your people, he promised, though he had no idea how he would keep that promise. An alarm suddenly blared through the station. Hannah rushed to a console. "Federation patrol ships," she said, her voice tight with fear. "3 of them. They're requesting emergency docking." Tay's heart sank. "They found us." "Hide the Lumini," Ta said quickly. "I'll stall them." Hannah nodded and hurried the glowing aliens through a side door. "This way." Quickly. Ta moved to the main communication panel and accepted the incoming call. A stern Federation officer appeared on screen. "Research Station 17. This is Captain Park of the Federation Patrol. We're conducting a search for a stolen cargo ship and its captain. Prepare for boarding and inspection." Ta stayed out of view of the camera as Hannah spoke. "This is Dr. Hannah Kim. We're a private research facility. What is the nature of your emergency docking request?" "This is not a request, Doctor. It's an order. We have reports that the stolen ship may be in this sector." Hannah looked nervous but stood her ground. "We have sensitive experiments in progress. I'll need to see proper authorization before." "Authorization granted under Federation Security Code 7293. The captain interrupted. "Prepare for boarding." The screen went dark. Hannah turned to Todd with wide eyes. "They'll be here in minutes." "Is there another way off the station?" Ty asked. "The emergency shuttles in Bay 5, Hannah said, "but they're small and short range. You couldn't get far." Tay thought quickly. "What about your supply ships? When is the next one due?" "Tomorrow," Hannah said. "But wait. The maintenance crew. They're scheduled to leave in 30 minutes. Their ship is in Bay 4. "Perfect," Ta said. "Can you get us on that ship?" Hannah hesitated only briefly. "I'll try." The maintenance crew's ship was small and cramped, designed for a team of 4. With Tai, Hannah, and 7 Lumini, it would be very tight. But they had no choice. Hannah spoke urgently with the head of the maintenance crew, a burly man named Jin. At first, he shook his head firmly, but after Hannah showed him something on a datapad, he reluctantly agreed. "What did you show him?" Tai asked as they hurried the Lumini aboard. "His medical records," Hannah said with a small smile. "He has an unregistered heart condition that would cost him his job if the Federation found out. I've been treating him off the books for years." "That's blackmail," Ta said, surprised. Hannah shrugged. "Desperate times." They squeezed into the small cargo area of the maintenance ship just as the alarms indicated the Federation patrol had docked. Jin and his crew took their positions in the cockpit, acting as if nothing was unusual. "Stay absolutely quiet," Ta whispered to the Lumini, who huddled together in the dim space. Minutes felt like hours as they waited for clearance to depart. Through the thin walls, they could hear Federation officers questioning Jin. The maintenance chief sounded annoyed but cooperative, explaining they were behind schedule and needed to leave immediately. Finally, the sound of heavy boots moved away, and the ship's engines hummed to life. They were cleared for departure. As they pulled away from the station, Ta peered through a small viewport. 3 Federation patrol ships surrounded the research station. They had escaped just in time. Jin dropped them off at a small trading post on the edge of Federation space. It was a lawless place where questions weren't asked as long as you had credits to spend. "This is as far as I go," Jin told them. "What you do from here is your business." "Thank you," Hannah said. "I'll still treat your condition. Send me a message when you need more medication." Jin nodded gruffly and returned to his ship. Tai looked around the shabby trading post. "We need to find Min," he said to Hannah. "Your friend. You said she works in the border regions." "She has a workshop on Outpost 23, Hannah replied. "It's a 3-day journey from here, but how will we get there? We have no ship." Ta sighed. "I have some credits saved, maybe enough to buy passage on a transport. But with 7 aliens who glow in the dark, we won't exactly blend in." Sun stepped forward. "We can dim our light," she said. "When we must. It hurts, but we can do it." As if to demonstrate, All 7 lumini began to fade, their bright glow reducing to a faint shimmer that could be mistaken for unusual clothing in the dim light of the trading post. "That's helpful," Ta said. "But we still need to find a ship willing to take 9 passengers without asking for ID chips." "I know someone who might help," a voice said from behind them. Tai and Hannah spun around to see a tall, lean man leaning against a stack of cargo containers. He wore the mismatched clothing typical of border traders, but his eyes were sharp and alert. "Who are you?" Ta demanded. "The name's Du," the man said. "And I couldn't help overhearing that you need transport. I might be able to assist. For a price, of course." Ta stepped protectively in front of the dimmed lumini. "Why would you help us?" Du smiled. "Let's just say I'm not a fan of the Federation's policies on certain matters, including their blind-eyed to corporate slave trading." Hannah and Tide exchanged glances. Could they trust this stranger? "I have a small ship," Du continued. "Nothing fancy, but it's fast, and a cargo hold is shielded from standard scans. I can take you to Outpost 23 for 5,000 credits." "That's all the credits I have," Ta said. "Then it's fortunate that's my price," Du replied with another smile. "Shall we go?" "My ship's docked in Bay 12. Du's ship was indeed small, but clean and well-maintained. The cargo hold was larger than expected and had been converted into a comfortable living space with bunks and a small food preparation area. "You do this often," Hannah observed as they settled in. "Transport people who want to avoid the Federation." Du nodded. "You could say I'm part of an underground network. We help those the Federation would rather ignore or exploit." As the ship left the trading post and entered open space, the lumini allowed their natural glow to return. Du watched with fascination. "I've seen many species in my travels," he said, "but none like you." Sun approached him cautiously. "You help people like us." "I try," Du said. "The network I'm part of documents corporate abuses and helps displaced beings find new homes. We've been watching the mining corporations for years. We knew they were using forced labor, but we didn't know about your people specifically." "There are more of us," Sun said sadly. "Many taken to different places." Du nodded. "We've heard rumors of a new type of worker on the toxic mining worlds. Beings who could heal the land and make it productive again. We just didn't know who they were or where they came from." Tai felt a mix of hope and worry. "This network of yours, how big is it? Can it really help against corporations with Federation backing?" "Bigger than you might think," Du said. "Not everyone in the Federation agrees with current policies. Some officials secretly support us, but we need evidence to force change." He looked thoughtfully at the lumini. "Evidence like 7 aliens who were being transported as slaves." "We're not using them as evidence," Ta said firmly. "They've been through enough." "Of course not," Du agreed. "But their story, their testimony, could help save others." Sun stepped forward again. "We will help," she said, "to save our people." Du smiled at her. "I was hoping you'd say that. But first, we need to get you somewhere safe." The ship's alarm suddenly blared. Du rushed to the cockpit and cursed under his breath. "Federation patrol," he called back. "They must have put out an alert for anyone leaving that trading post." Todd joined him at the controls. "Can we outrun them?" "Maybe," Du said, hands flying over the controls. "But there's a better option." He pointed to a dense asteroid field ahead. "If we can reach that, we can lose them in the rocks." The patrol ship gained on them, close enough now that its warning lights were visible through the rear viewport. "Attention, unregistered vessel." A stern voice came over the communication system. "Reduce speed and prepare to be boarded." Du ignored the command and pushed the engines harder. The ship shuddered from the strain. "We're not going to make it," Hannah said from behind them. Just then, Sun entered the cockpit, followed by the other lumini. "We can help," she said. She placed her glowing hand on the ship's control panel. The other lumini did the same. A strange, pulsing light spread from their hands into the ship's systems. The engines, which had been straining at their limits, suddenly surged with new power. The ship leaped forward, rapidly pulling away from the patrol vessel. "What did you do?" Tai asked in amazement. "We share energy," Sun explained, her glow slightly dimmer now. "It is part of our healing gift." Within minutes, they reached the asteroid field. Du navigated expertly through the floating rocks until the patrol ship was lost from their sensors. "That was incredible," Du said, looking at the Lumini with new respect. "Your abilities go beyond healing plants." Sun nodded tiredly. "We connect with living things. Your ship has living parts, biocircuits, yes. We can share energy, but it takes much from us." Indeed, all the Lumini looked dimmer now, their energy depleted from helping the ship. "Rest," Ta told them. "You're safe now." As the Lumini settled in the cargo hold to recover, Du turned to Tai and Hannah. "If they can do that, connect with technology that has biological components, they're even more valuable than I thought. No wonder the corporations want them. All the more reason to keep them safe," Ta said firmly. Du nodded. "Outpost 23 is still 2 days away. Min will know what to do next." Ta looked back at the resting Lumini and felt both pride and worry. They had escaped the Federation patrol again, but for how long? And what would happen when they reached Min? Could she really help protect these gentle beings? One thing was certain, he was now fully committed to their cause. Whatever happened next, he would stand by them. Outpost 23 wasn't much to look at. It was built into a small asteroid, with ships and structures attached to its rocky surface, like barnacles on a ship's hull. But to Ta, Hannah, and the 7 Lumini, it represented hope. Du guided their ship to a docking port on the far side of the outpost, away from the main traffic areas. "Min's workshop is in Section 7, he told them as they prepared to disembark. "We'll need to be careful. There are Federation sympathizers even here." The Lumini dimmed their glow again as they moved through the narrow corridors of the outpost. Few people paid them any attention. Outpost 23 was home to dozens of species from across the galaxy, and most residents minded their own business. Min's workshop was behind a heavy metal door with no sign or marking. Du knocked in a specific pattern, and after a moment, the door slid open. The woman who greeted them was small, but had an air of strength about her. Her black hair was cut short, and her eyes were sharp and curious. "Du," she said, nodding at him before looking at the others. "These are your friends who need help." "This is Ta and Hannah," Du said. "And these are, well, you should see for yourself." Once they were safely inside, and the door was locked, the Lumini allowed their natural glow to return. Min's eyes widened in surprise. "Fascinating," she said, circling the aliens with open curiosity. "I've never seen beings like you before." Sun stepped forward. "We are Lumini. The bad men took us from our home." Min nodded, her expression growing serious. "Du told me about your situation. You're not the first to seek refuge here." She led them deeper into her workshop, which was filled with plants growing under special lights. There was a garden dome in the center, much like the one in Hannah's research station, but smaller and clearly struggling. Many of the plants were yellow and wilting. "My little project," Min explained. "Fresh food is hard to come by out here. I've been trying to grow some, but," she gestured at the dying plants, "I'm better with machines than living things." Sun looked at the garden dome with interest. Without asking permission, she walked into it, followed by the other Lumini. They spread out among the plants and began to touch them gently with their glowing hands. Tai, Hannah, Du, and Min watched in amazement as the plants began to straighten and turn greener. Leaves that had been brown and curled unfurled and grew. Some plants even began to flower before their eyes. "Incredible," Min whispered. "They're healing my garden." When the Lumini emerged from the dome, they looked tired but happy. The garden behind them was transformed, lush, green, and full of life. Min's skeptical expression had changed to one of determination. "I'm in," she said firmly. Whatever you need to help these beings, I'll do it. Over the next few hours, they talked and planned. Min's workshop became their base as they discussed what to do next. The corporations won't stop looking for them, Min said. And your friend Kang has probably put a price on your head by now. Ta. We need to find the other Lumini, Ta said. Sun says there are more of her people being held as slaves. Min nodded. From what my contacts tell me, they're being used on at least 3 mining worlds in this sector. Toxic planets where nothing would grow before. How do we free them? Hannah asked. We can't exactly walk into heavily guarded mining operations and ask nicely. No, Du agreed, but we might not have to free them ourselves. He looked thoughtful. What we need is to expose what's happening. Force the Federation to act. The Federation won't care, Ta said bitterly. They benefit from the mining operations too much. Not all of the Federation, Min said. There's growing opposition to corporate exploitation. If we had solid evidence, something that couldn't be ignored. Sun, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. We can show them. Everyone turned to look at her. Show them what? Tai asked. The truth, Sun said simply. Lumini can share memories. Through touch, it is how we teach our young. Du leaned forward, intrigued. You can share your memories with others, even non-Lumini. Sun nodded. With effort, yes. We can show what was done to us. That's it, Du exclaimed. If you could share your memories with key Federation officials or journalists, they couldn't deny what happened. It would be dangerous, Min warned. For you to get close enough to Federation officials, you'd have to turn yourselves in. They fell silent, each considering the risks. Finally, Tai spoke up. What if we don't go to them? What if we make them come to us? The plan was bold but simple. Min had access to the outpost communication array, which she could modify to broadcast a powerful signal across the sector. The Lumini would pool their energy to embed their shared memories of captivity and abuse into the signal. Anyone who receives it will experience your memories, Min explained to Sun. They'll feel what you felt, see what you saw. Will it hurt them? Sun asked, concerned. No, Min assured her, but it will be intense. They won't be able to deny the truth. As Min and Du prepared the equipment, Hannah monitored the Lumini's health. The process would require a lot of their energy, especially from Sun, who would lead the memory sharing. Ta stood watch at the door, nervous but determined. This was their one chance to make a difference, not just for these 7 Lumini, but for all the others still in captivity. Someone's coming. He suddenly called out, looking at the security monitor. Federation uniforms. A lot of them. Min rushed to the monitor. How did they find us so quickly? Someone must have recognized us, or the Lumini, Du said grimly. We need to hurry. The sound of heavy boots echoed in the corridor outside. Min's equipment wasn't quite ready, but they were out of time. We need to stall them, Ta said. I'll go out and talk to them. Buy you some time. That's suicide, Hannah protested. They'll arrest you on sight. Ta looked at the Lumini, who were gathering in a circle, preparing to share their memories. It's worth it. Just get that broadcast ready. Before anyone could stop him, Ta slipped out the door, closing it firmly behind him. He walked down the corridor toward the approaching Federation officers, hands raised to show he was unarmed. I'm the one you want, he called out. Captain Ta of the Star Runner *. The lead officer held up a hand, stopping his team. You're under arrest for theft, smuggling, and interference with corporate property. Corporate property? Tay repeated, his voice rising in anger. You mean people? Living beings with thoughts and feelings. Stand down and come with us. The officer ordered, ignoring his outburst. Tai took a step back. You know what's happening on those mining worlds, don't you? You know the corporations are using slaves. Some of the junior officers exchanged uncomfortable glances. Good, Ta thought. Not all of them were corrupt. This is your final warning, the lead officer said, drawing his weapon. Suddenly, The lights in the corridor flickered. A wave of energy pulsed through the outpost, making everyone stagger. Then came the memories. Ta gasped as images flooded his mind. Darkness, fear, pain. The memories of the Lumini washed over him. Being torn from their homes, kept in dark containers, forced to heal toxic land until they were weak and sick. He felt their confusion, their sadness, their longing for home. Around him, the Federation officers were experiencing the same thing. Some fell to their knees. Others leaned against the walls for support. The lead officer's weapon clattered to the floor as he clutched his head. The memories continued for several minutes, though it felt like hours. When they finally faded, there was silence in the corridor. The lead officer slowly looked up at Ta, his face pale and shaken. What was that? The truth, Ta said simply. What your corporate friends didn't want you to see. A younger officer stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. I had no idea. They told us we were just retrieving stolen property. The lead officer looked at his team, then back at Ta. After a long moment, he made a decision. He lowered his weapon completely. Take us to them, he said quietly. The beings whose memories we just felt. We need to talk. 1 month later, Tai stood on the observation deck of a Federation diplomatic vessel. Beside him was Sun, looking healthier and happier than he had ever seen her. Your people are free now, he told her. The Federation Council couldn't ignore the evidence once half the sector experienced your memories. It was true. The broadcast had reached further than they had dared hope. Millions of beings across the sector had experienced the Lumini's memories. The public outcry had been immediate and overwhelming. The Federation had been forced to act, sending ships to free the enslaved Lumini on all 3 mining worlds. And the bad men? Sun asked. Kang and his associates have been arrested, Ta said with satisfaction. The corporations are being investigated. Things are changing. Sun smiled, her glow brightening. And now we go home. Ta nodded. The Federation had agreed to help the Lumini return to their homeworld and establish proper diplomatic relations, and they had asked Ta to serve as the first human ambassador. You could have turned us in, Sun said, looking up at him. When you found us, it would have been easier. Tai thought about everything that had happened, the dangers, the close calls, the uncertainty. And he thought about what might have happened if he had made a different choice that day in his cargo hold. No, he said finally, it wouldn't have been easier. Not really. Sun touched his hand lightly, and he felt a gentle warmth spread through him. You showed us not all humans are like the bad men. You showed us what humanity truly is. Ta smiled as they both turned to watch the stars streaking past. Sometimes the right choice was the hard one. And sometimes the smallest decision could change not just one life, but many. He had started this journey as a simple cargo hauler, just trying to pay his bills. He was ending it as something much more, a bridge between worlds, a voice for those who had been silenced, and a reminder of the best that humanity could be.